Hi, how are you? And it's really nice to be with you. And this is going to be talking about changes in the sky starting around the 16th of February, and there's going to be quite a lot happening. So we'll be reverting back to the older format where I'll give the astrology in one session and the tarot in the other. Because there's a lot happening and it's not necessarily all compatible, I need to spend a little bit more time walking you through the astrology and probably spend a little bit more time as well walking you through the tarot to get a good sense of that. Now, we've had a lovely 2 weeks or 1 week, 1 week, 7 days since the full moon, and that's been really nice where there hasn't actually been anything happening. So we've just had this lovely time to see and to have some illumination, and that's predominantly, as we've seen from the videos before, about some areas where we are passionate about, but also the areas where we are stopping ourselves from exploring and encapsulating those passions and moving forward with them in any real sense. So we're going to continue with the exploration of those passions and those new ideas, and that's what really is going to be a consistent theme for the rest of this month, and I think that's kind of nice. Now, on the 16th, Mars is going to enter Capricorn, and on the 16th, Mars was going to really enjoy being in Capricorn and love it. It's very compatible, and they are going to be very comfortable together. The things that are shared between Capricorn and Mars is persistent. They're very persistent. It's very considered. It's very future focused. So there's going to be a lot of time with you thinking about and strategizing and wanting to work through what is this new direction, or what do I want to take into the future with me. So that's going to be happening after the 16th. 16th is a busy day because also we have Mercury turns retrograde in Pisces. Now, Mercury is not so comfortable in Pisces. So Pisces is all about intuitive and empathetic and the big picture. So that's Pisces. Mercury is a little bit more comfortable with details and a little bit more comfortable with definition. It is, after all, the communicator, and it likes to have clear messages. Pisces is a little bit about undercurrents, so not so much about absolute clarity. So what you're going to be, if you're someone who really likes a lot of details and likes that clarity, you could find yourself ending up swimming around in the big picture, unanchored a little bit, and just meandering mindfulnesslessly. So just meandering around from different aspects, and not necessarily having this feeling that you've got a lot of control over where your thoughts are taking you. That'll be the Mercury feeling really uncomfortable in Pisces, because it loves detail, loves power and authority. But what's happening here is that's not what Pisces is all about. It's all about collaborations. It's highly intuitive, it's very empathetic, and it's also a big picture. So you might find that you're going to be a bit frustrated with communications, and you might also find that you're unable to communicate accurately, because Pisces is also a little bit nebulous with these big feelings, and Mercury is going to feel uncomfortable. So you might necessarily be able to touch exactly what it is that's going on in your mind. You might feel like you've got a hold of it, but it's actually, every time you feel like you've grasped it and you can actually put some words around it, it's going to disappear. But it's not going to go too far. It's still there. You're just feeling an inability to condense it into details and articulate it. The reason being, basically, it's not ready yet to be articulated. I think you remember, and I'm pretty sure we had this also in the previous cards, particularly in the tarot. It talked about that there needed to be a lot of union, there needed to be a lot of coming together of things before you could make sense, and this is what Pisces is all about. Pisces is two fish, so it is about things coming together, yin yang, and getting yourself comfortable with that. On the 18th, the Sun enters Pisces. That's not officially the Pisces season, but the Sun will start to move into Pisces. And I'm going to do a separate video like I did for Aquarius season, where I'm going to talk about the big impact about Pisces and what we can expect to happen in that month. Purely, well, when I say month, that 4 weeks that is the Pisces season. But needless to say, it's a lot of exploring, a lot of big ideas, and it's actually going to be there teaching us to learn to explore big ideas with greater insight. And that's going to be the difference. The difference is we're going to be able to see these big ideas and not feel that they're too far removed or too big. We're going to see them, and then we're going to get some insights about how to make that work. And this is all going to be about collaboration. And it's not collaboration necessarily just with people. It might also be collaboration within ideas. Now, on the 20th, I told you there was going to be a lot happening. Jupiter is going to be sextiling Neptune. This is lovely to be happening just after Pisces, because Pisces is also exploring and thinking about big ideas, about learning and getting greater insight. Now, Jupiter is all about expansion and exploring, and Neptune is definitely about exploring and going underneath a little bit. It's also a bit nebulous. So Neptune and Pisces sit very beautifully together. Jupiter sits very nicely with Pisces as well. So we're going to have, after the 20th, what's going to be triggered for us is this expanding and exploring of new ideas. Now, this is no different. We've talked about this a little bit because Aquarius is also about expanding and exploring new ideas. The difference is Aquarius is a little bit about hard truths, whereas Pisces is a lot more about compassion and faith and bringing oppositions together. So that oppositions together is a continuous theme from the Aquarius season, but moving into the Piscean season, that continues. So if you've got elements of yourself or elements of real life that you thought were a bit disparate and you didn't know how to bring them together, this is going to be a time for you to be musing around and working around how to bring them together and how to make some sense of that. And I think that's going to be really, really lovely. But given that we've got Mars entering Capricorn and it's not going to be comfortable, we're going to have moments when we're going to have frustrated because we're going to want to be taking things forward and nothing is going to be seeming to be put in place yet. That's because we are wanting to explore and understand before we take things forward. And Mars is like, let's go, let's get into it, let's get to this fire happening. And we've also had this time of great passion with the new moon. But again, it is exploring your passion, finding your passion and beginning to understand it. It's not yet time to be putting all of the blocks in place. So this is going to create friction a little bit for us, and we're going to feel a little bit uncomfortable. Now, the Mercury retrograde, it is really not going to be comfortable at all for a lot of us in Pisces. And so again, we're going to have Mercury uncomfortable and Mars uncomfortable. And Mars and Mercury do work very nicely together. So what we're going to be having in this period in Pisces is we're going to have to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. We're going to have to get comfortable with things being inconsistent and not necessarily being how we think they should be. So we're going to have a little bit of a sense. You might find a sense of powerlessness at the moment, and that's going to make things a little bit uncomfortable for you. But it will start to bring things together. Or enable you to see where you do need to bring things together. So there will be this moving between big picture, desire for details, wanting things to move, but trust me, things are not in place yet for everything you want to happen to move forward. And if you are trying to force it, it's not going to work. Now, I've put up something that talks about being in the flow. Please, if you're finding yourself thinking, why is everything not necessarily falling into place, go and have a read of that story about explaining what it means to be in the flow. So that's going to be really, really interesting. The new moon that's going to be happening in Pisces on the 23rd is going to be quite interesting for us as well. It is going to be a nice new moon, but remember, a new moon is all about, it is about new beginnings, but to have a new beginning, you have to leave something behind. So this new moon in February is going to be a lovely new moon, but it's going to be helping us to streamline the aspects that we want to expand. So it's going to help us look at where we want to go. And of course, every new beginning requires an ending. So one of the things I want you to do in preparation for this new moon, and I'll give you something leading up to the new moon because I think it's quite important. I'm going to give you a little bit of a ritual or a little bit of an aspect for you to integrate in for the new moon, because this is a really nice opportunity for you to let go of some of these small details that you've been hammering on about, and it's time to let them go. And so I want to be able to give you something that's going to enable you to move through this new moon on the 23rd. All right, so I'll come back and I'll give you a reading in a couple of days about the sun moving into Pisces, and then I'll come back after that and I'll give you a separate reading, which is, actually I might see if I can combine the two of them together, but I might give you a separate reading on the new moon and a little ritual that might be really nice to do to allow you to release, because we are actually coming up to a new release stage. There's been some people who, I think if you've been feeling it, people have been in contact with me and have had these real moments of shakiness and unsteadiness, and it's about to release a massive aspect. And that massive aspect that's going to be released for the new moon on the 23rd is procrastination. So can't we all have that little procrastination removed? So let's talk about, and I'll get into the details and the nitty-gritty about procrastination later. I'm going to leave it there. I'll give you the tarot, and also after that we'll go on and do the videos for the business as well. So I'll see you soon. Now, if you are running a business and you haven't watched the business videos, the only thing I'm going to say to you is the business read videos and the tarot for the business are very different. Most of us are not exactly the same in our personal lives as we are in our business lives, because the personal life is one aspect of us. The business life, we engage different aspects of us. And that's always the way it's been. We've always had a public life and a private life. Nothing changes. That's been the way it is throughout history. And so if you like to look at it, the business tarot is all about your public life, and the personal tarot is all about your private life. And while there are definite overlays, there are distinct differences. Okay, take care. I'll talk to you soon.